Hey guys, in this video the lovely team is going to be taking you through demographics, identity and migration as part of your GCSE Citizenship. Now if you want help remembering all the tricky facts in here, then there are loads of multiple choice questions over on the website to help you do exactly that.
Demographics is the study and plotting of populations, population change, and the analysis of these changes. Information in the UK is gathered once a decade through a census. This is done on the second year of every decade, so 2001, 2011, and we can expect the next in 2021. A census is basically a very large form sent out to every household in the UK asking for details on who lives there, their age, their ethnicity, their profession, their religious beliefs, etc. The current UK population is roughly 67 million and rising very gradually. There are several causes for this increase, such as migration, a slightly higher birth rate than death rate. When we say migration, we mean net migration, which is the difference between the number of people entering the UK and the number of people leaving the UK, as opposed to gross migration, which is just the total number of people entering the UK. Roughly 13% of people in the UK are an ethnic minority of some sort. 56% of Britons are Christian. However, this number is often taken to be theoretically Christian, as church attendance, in all branches of Christianity, is much, much lower than that. 28% of people at the last census declared that they were non-religious, or atheist. However, this number by now is probably much higher, as many young people tend to belong to this group. There are several trends in the UK population. The UK is becoming increasingly urbanised. By this, we mean that more and more people are living in towns and cities, and less people are living in villages and hamlets. Religion is becoming steadily less common in the UK, whereas if you go back even to the 60s and 70s, the UK was an almost completely Christian nation. Today, two things have happened. Religion in the UK is more diverse, with people being members of other religions such as Islam, Hinduism, Sikhism and Buddhism. But the numbers of people who declare themselves to be atheist, agnostic or non-religious is also on the rise. Large amounts of the UK population have access to and some sort of qualification from either higher or further education. More people in the UK are in the service sector or non-industrial employment. Traditionally, all the way through to the 90s, the largest employers in the UK were industrial manufacturing, such as car manufacturing or mining. However, the UK economy and the workers within it are moving into the service and financial sector, things like supermarkets, broadband provision and the media. The UK population is generally ageing, but other countries have a much higher rate of average age increase. There are problems associated with this further down the line. People who are dependent on state pension provision becomes gradually larger, with a smaller number of people paying into it through general taxation to pay for that. The percentage of LGBTQ+ people in the UK who identify as such is steadily increasing. Partly this is due to the increased rights and recognition for this group, and partly this is because of more and more liberal social policy. The population of the UK is increasingly less confined to traditional cultural stereotypes. Things like mixed-race marriages are more common. The role of women has changed over the last few decades. Identity can be defined as the way in which an individual sees and identifies themselves relative to others, and perhaps relative to the environment around them. There are many factors which make up a person's identity, and for each individual, how important each of these factors are will vary. Their nationality tends to be key. Many people identify themselves as British, Irish, Scottish, Welsh, British Indian, for example. Religion, for many people, can be a key factor in their identity. Their identity can be made up, for a lot of people, around being Christian or being Muslim. Hobbies can build a person's identity. For many people, their hobbies and interests build up a fundamental part of who they are and how they see themselves. Their ethnicity, especially if it is different from mainstream ethnicities, can provide a key factor in identity. Stemming from ethnicity tends to be culture, specific languages or cuisine. Many people are proud if they speak another language, especially if it's their native language, proud of a particular cuisine or cultural background. Political persuasion. For people especially interested in politics who have a special attachment to it, their political persuasion or membership of a political party or movement can be a key part of their identity. Their education and upbringing, especially if that education was in a grammar or private school, can provide somebody with a key background to their identity. Many people who have been through the private school system or to university gain a lot of their identity through that school system or their time and experiences at university. In a diverse nation such as the UK, with huge numbers of different identities stemming from huge numbers of sources of identity, these changing identities can lead to conflicts where different identities have different views about the same issues that they are unable to reconcile. A key example of this is the Northern Irish Troubles, where there were conflicts between Protestant Unionists and Catholic Republicans, those who wanted to stay with the UK and those who wanted to leave it and become an independent nation or part of the Republic of Ireland. Very conservative Islamism and its values can sometimes conflict with British progressive attitudes, especially on things like LGBTQ+ rights and the role of women. Progressive liberal attitudes on immigration and Europe have conflicted over the last few years with a very traditionalist view of Britain held by many older people. The liberal attitude towards a permissive society, a more diverse society, has conflicted with people who found themselves nostalgic for an age when Britain was predominantly white and predominantly Christian. Rural attitudes to agriculture and food, farming, the rights of animals and the treatment of animals, is leading to increasing conflict with animal rights campaigning and people who define themselves around a vegan or vegetarian identity. Often this can be traced to a conflict between urban attitudes and rural attitudes. A key example of this came when, during the 2000s, fox hunting was banned. This ban, and the conflict around it, was one of identity, where many rural people felt that their way of life was under threat, and many urban people felt that this was a matter of compassion and animal rights. A migrant is an individual who moves countries, sometimes with their family or sometimes alone, for mostly economic reasons. This is in stark contrast to a refugee who is forced to leave a country due to reasons of war or famine or political persecution. Migration to and from the UK has come in waves. While none of these waves are clear-cut, there are several ones that we can identify and which are useful in an exam. In the 1950s and 1960s, migrants entered the UK from the West Indies. These were known as the Windrush generation. They tended to work in industry, especially manufacturing, in London and the Midlands. There was some race riots which resulted from this. The migrants from the West Indies tended to be black, and this led to issues with predominantly white areas in parts of London, especially Brixton. In the 1970s and 1980s, migrants entered the UK from the former imperial or empire possessions of India, Pakistan and Bangladesh. Usually they went to work in the textile industries in the Midlands and Yorkshire. Places like Bradford and Keighley and Birmingham still have a high population of British Indians, British Pakistanis and British Bangladeshis because of this. In the 1990s and 2000s, migrants entered the UK from Eastern Europe. This was after the fall of communism and the fall of the Berlin Wall, when borders across Europe opened. The West, and especially the UK, had enormous opportunities for work for people, and many young men from Eastern Europe came to earn money in a range of industries, for example construction, to send back to their families in Eastern Europe. In the 2010s, migrants have generally entered the UK from all over the world, from places such as China, the USA, Vietnam, Japan, for education in excellent universities, for experience of the Western world, or for economic opportunity, as those before them. There are various anti-attitudes to migration, usually parties on the right of the political spectrum, such as the Conservative Party currently, UKIP, the United Kingdom Independence Party, and the Brexit Party, have traditionally been thought to have a more hostile attitude towards migration. This is often a populist position. By populist, we mean a simple answer to a complex question. Immigration and migration generally around the world is an immensely complex issue, taking in many factors, global politics, war and economics, and cannot be simply reduced to a populist anti-immigration answer. Often, this policy reflects concerns about strains on public services. Many people imagine that increased amounts of migration means there are more people using schools and hospitals, for example. Quite often, this has been proven not to be the case, but this is a perennial concern of much of the public. More extreme anti-immigration parties, or pressure groups, tend to focus on British identity, outright racist policy, or neo-Nazi conspiracy theories, which are very common across some social media. Pro-immigration policies or attitudes tend to be associated with parties of the left, such as Labour, the Liberal Democrats, and Green Party. Often this is combined with other progressive social policies, such as LGBTQ+ rights and expanded civil liberties. Quite often, this positive attitude to migration forms part of a wider internationalist or globalist set of anti-populist and anti-nationalist policy.
Ouch. Love you too, Prim.